How are we doing, guys? Welcome to another VEGA Conflict video. Today's topic is going to be just talking about the, the specifics and the mechanics of a couple of different aspects of the game. This video has been inspired by a conversation I was having with one of the guys in my clan when we were talking about how we think fleet layout is going to be affected now that all three of the Rangers are out, and how maybe the last ship, the Pharmacon Titan, may affect things. The reason this idea for the video has come about is because he mentioned a build that in my head didn't work, but I wasn't 100% sure about it. So we did a test on it and proved that it didn't work. The reason that I was unsure about it is because I hadn't paid that much attention. It was only with him saying something that it jogged my mind thinking about the way that the mechanics work, and made me think there then in that moment of the reason why it wouldn't work. His idea at the time was to have 4 operators, or maybe 5 operators, and an Ajax, an Ajax, however you want to say it. Now, that wouldn't work. He was hoping that the Ajax would soak up any damage that the operator would be taking. But the reason that that doesn't work, or well, it didn't work when we did our test, is because, from my understanding, the Saviour description says when an ally within maximum weapon range loses its defences, a support field is activated. All damage dealt to allies within the support field is instead dealt to the Ajax. Now, the problem with Pharmacon is they don't lose their support, their defenses. They never lose the defenses until the fleet is completely dissipated. So pairing that and that is never going to work. So that ship there is only going to benefit you if you're using Altarian and an Umbra. So the point of this video is just to sort of highlight the key element of actually reading the descriptions and just to point out how vital it is, because it's something that I realised recently that I haven't done myself. Again, it was pointed out when we tested this fleet. So all I did was I paired the Ajax with a Mark II operator. This build, to be specific, it's only a Mark II. It was that ship there, and my operator went up against a couple of his vectors. So after we'd done the test and realised it hadn't worked, I said, should we just have a bit of fun and have a bit of PvP? So he came at my operator with his 2 vectors and lost them both due to the exiting phase state perk. Now, this is something that, like, again, they're not very specific with how these perks affect ships. You've got to do a lot of thinking, you've got to do a lot of focusing to find the right build for the right ship. So, for example, if someone, he asked the question about beams on this ship, beams would be pretty useless from my interpretation of it, because the way that I see it is this boost as they come out of phase is an instant boost. However, if you're using a beam weapon like the Dyad, surely that spans over a couple of seconds as it's being used. So it's not an instant weapon. So all that damage, say for example it does 1,000 damage, that beam animation, should we say, for example, if that was to last for 3 seconds, then that damage would basically be 333 damage per second. So that instant damage would only work for 1 second of that full bit, so you won't get the full potential of it on on the operator. So with this, I wanted to go into a couple of ideas and just ways of looking towards the mechanics and how the game is run to try and increase your efficiency and reduce the amount of time you spent refitting ships. So first of all, I would suggest looking at your ship. Make it absolutely barren with nothing on and just spend some time looking at what they do. For example, when 5,000 damage is done, when I made my video after getting my first Artemis, I looked at all these perks and had a quick glossing over of them and gave my impression on what I thought it would be and how I interpreted it. And it wasn't until I read this 2 or 3 times that I realised that it's not actually very specific. When 5,000 damage is done, it doesn't specify whether that's done to the Artemis or done by the Artemis. It turns out that if you deal 5,000 damage, the drones are deployed. I'm guessing the reason that it says it that way is because it's both ways. Whether it's dealt or received, the drones get deployed. But there's a lot of areas in this game where little discrepancies like that can confuse. Another one, for instance, would be when trying to refit. So, for example, with this, I had to double check this earlier on when I was looking at the re-evaluating my build for the ship. So I'll do it with the already fitted Artemis, because I stuck this on because I had the instant application token for it, and I completely forgot to take that off and replace it with a boost for one of my for the weapons. Now, when I was looking at what I could put on there a minute ago, I was clicking on them, and this is something I suggest to people when they're building ships. Click on them and read everything again. Click on it and read all the perks and proper analyse what your ship is going to become after you've applied all these little tweaks and changes, because they do make a massive difference. So I was looking at Xeno munitions, not Xeno, sorry, beam capacitor. So I looked at the beam capacitor, and if you put that on your ship, you can see that it highlights that it will affect this weapon. Now that can be quite misleading, because on the Ranger you can't extend these range, because the ship itself, effective range is 4,000 to 8,000 meters. The weapon, the range is 2,800 to 8,000 meters. So even if you extended the range, it wouldn't actually extend the range, because this ship is limited to 8,000 meters. So putting that on the ship is a waste of space. Even though it looks like it is affecting your weapons, it is doing nothing for you. So this kind of thing I would like to see improved. And it's something to point out, because some people might just see the highlighted glow and be like, oh yeah, brilliant, I've got a Ranger now that does 9,200 range. Doesn't affect it. Which means that you're pretty limited to what you can put on here, because everything else pretty much doesn't deal any benefit to the ship. Low level, you're always going to want to put your Zephyr on because it's weightless and gives you that extra space for weapons, armor, shields, whatever you can think of. All these, they'll affect the ship. Maybe they're not worth the space, which to me and to someone else in my clan also suggests that the only ones that are going to be available for this ship is possibly going to be the ballistic sabot, which you're not really going to want because you're reducing your actual range, but would extend the projectile range. So you may be able to utilise that when it comes to basing, if you can get, I don't know, maybe for example within range of an outer module with the intention to do damage to the modules behind it. That could be a potential use, because obviously these weapons ricochet off into 3 segments when successfully hit. That could possibly be an idea. If not, it's going to be the solenoid. It's probably going to be the only one you can use, which is going to be great because the weapon speed will massively increase the damage that this can do because, like I say, it's got them projectiles that split off. The shield bypass is great, but again, something that confused me at the start, look exactly what it's doing because things are very specific. I used to think of the Pharmacon's shields as shields, but they're not. They're not shields, are they? They're different. So I was always thinking, oh yeah, so that'll go through their shields, and I thought ablative was still referred to as a shield because it's in the shield slot, but it's not. So you've got to make sure that you look at all the specifics and get right down into the nitty gritty detail. Great thing about this is it doesn't cost any extra weight. Instead, it costs your shield energy. So people might think, oh, well, I don't really want to put that on, but the bonus of these, 25% shield energy with this new armor. So they're giving you ways to counter it. So understanding your ship and reading the actual specifics on what these items do for your ship has become more apparent now, especially when there's these 3 different types of ship, these 3 different classes that quite well counter each other. They've really done well on making sure that a person's not going to use just one type of ship. Because I've seen an elite operator like this, better equipped than mine. I haven't finished my refit. But if you had 5 of these plasma 4 Cascade missiles, I've seen people fly into a fleet of 6 elite Valravens, mine specifically, and wipe them all out because they knew how to fly the ship and they knew how the mechanics worked. So with this ship, like I said before, they utilised this exiting phase state, timed it to perfection, dropped out of phase, and as it dropped out of phase, they were within my firing arcs, and they came from the side, so it just went from one ship to another, and just passed through all 6 ships, and they were gone. Absolutely destroyed. So that's what I wanted to get into on this video. I don't want to make it too long, but what I wanted to highlight, especially to the people that I've been trying to help out, is, like I said, to read your modifiers. It confused me a couple of months back when someone referred to them as overdrives. Like, oh, they said this ship will be good because of its overdrive. And when I was reading it, I was reading through the ship that they were on about, and I'm like, looking for overdrive. I was like, I can't see any overdrive. Like, there's no overdrive here. What are they on about? But this section modifies that's its overdrives. These little perks here. So, like I say, for example, Swift. So knowing what your ship's going to do. So it takes 1,250 shield damage. It powers up its mobility, so it's going to be quicker. So it comes running in. It comes flying in, and then it does all this extra stuff. So great against Pharmacon, as Altarian always are. Increased screen damage, brilliant, happy days. Increased damage, happy days. Ship speed, strafe, it's all good. Plasma resist, they basically become invincible against Pharmacon, but only against Pharmacon that are higher tiered, because plasma resist. Now only tier 5, tier 6 fleets, the higher end ones, are going to be the plasma ones, otherwise they're going to be the kinesthetic, the blue energy, the kinetic energy. So it's quite easy to just think, mine have got this, my Altarian ships are pretty much OP and indestructible. Yeah, they're indestructible against the plasma stuff. But when that comes into PvP, you're not necessarily going to come up against people with plasma. You might come up against someone who's gone instead of going for the plasma, they'll maybe stick with the blue damage and increase their damage with the commanders. Now the commanders is another thing that I wanted to get into talking to about. As well as talking about reading on these, I've been looking into another idea today regarding these bastions. Now this is quite possibly going to be only for people who are trying to catch up, and going to be the ones that are trying to farm with the likes of the Orator. And the reason I wanted to do this little segment of the video is again because it highlights my point of pay attention to what information you have in front of you. So when we're choosing our commanders, so these three are pretty much mute now. They're only used for a specific 1 or 2 tasks. But then we come down and we think, Richard Gord, he's already out at the moment. And we look at these boosts here, projectile range, screen damage, happy days. And we forget most of the time about these. Now, this could help you out a lot if you had the 3 Altarian faction hulls. And with them giving away the cruisers in the Hobblier fleets, it makes sense to use them. Because weapon speed here, 4 times Altarian faction hulls. If you've got a Mark 3, Mark 2, Mark 4 Orator and you're trying to farm some Pharmacon fleets, having a boosted weapon speed might just save your bacon a little bit. Especially when you're going to be doing it against Pharmacon fleets with Plasma. So you've got the resistance, you've got the alien bonus damage, you've got extra shield energy. Why not increase yourself a little bit more and get a little bit more weapon speed? Now, the idea that I thought of was going back to Altarian. Now, I'm sure someone's probably done this before, but I've not seen it because I'm also playing catch up myself and learning about tier 7 and tier 8 again. I stopped playing a long time ago, just as tier 7 arrived. So I started playing again just about 3 or 4 weeks before the Valraven dropped. So I had a lot of catching up to do. So if this has been done, then I apologise. But what I was thinking, for the new people to the game, I'm going to sacrifice this build because I don't need it. So I'll leave that on because it's weightless, because this ship I'm going to want to be as light as possible. And the idea is to take all of this off and change out the shields for the harmonic. Because it gives you the harmonic shield booster. So we'll have 3 of them. I've just made a mistake actually, I won't be leaving that on. So we want the harmonic warfare, so we'll have that. We want the thruster. And another thing that really annoys me in this game is that if you've got a voucher, even though this is probably higher tier than this, it always uses your voucher, which wastes my voucher, which is frustrating because I like using these, hence why I've only got 1 left now. So we've now got harmonic booster speed, damage, and shield. And here we can also get Xeno harmonic on there, which will give us an extra little bit of harmonic damage. Now you only need level 1 because as light as possible, and you still get the boost. It doesn't have to be level 3. Level 1, 2, or 3 on them, or level 1 or 2 on them. You still get the same boost. 2, 2. So that's it. That's all you need on it. I might end up taking them off because it would make it lighter. But that's the build. Now, I'm going to look at this now. Harmonic Warfare times 5. Harmonic Shield Health times 5. So you're going to end up with 12.5% extra shields and 25% extra damage. An extra 12.5% speed. It's not much. It's not as much as when it comes to the boost you get with this. I mean, I'd have Warfare 25%, and I'd have the shields and agility around about this amount here, 13. But I don't need the agility. It's mainly about the warfare because you want that extra damage. So dropping down the agility and I probably get maybe a little bit less shield health as well because the shields from the cruisers, they've already got it embedded into the build, so you get an extra little bit of boost with the shield. But I don't need the shield as much, and the reason I'm wanting to do that is because I think the boost of maybe having the weapon speed rather than the shields is going to be beneficial to people who are trying to farm and catch up. Likewise, having the Dragon Vulcan piercing amount, it pierces through more of the screen. It's going to do more damage to the hull. So through the ship, sorry, it's going to do more damage to the fleet. It's going to do damage to other ships as well. This one can be utilised as well. Extra shield damage, 20% of shield damage for having 4 cruisers. So these are the secondary bonuses that I've definitely forgotten about, and possibly a lot of other players have forgotten about because tier 8 ships are quite OP, but people who are catching up, these could still be useful. Battleships, it doesn't say which type of battleships. This one, it's irrelevant because you're not really doing damage against cruisers anymore. So, not really a good one. But if you wanted that damage, you could find that. Farm compaction hulls, that's perfect because you're going to put your vectors together, so that's going to help you farming with them anyway. Umbra faction, likewise, is another good one to use these 2 bastions on. Cruiser hulls and 1 carrier hull. So if you're doing some basing and you're using your plexus or you're using your gargoyle, why not have these 2 with it? Because they're going to give the extra support. They're going to give the blight resist, and with them being as light as they are, you could stick a decent little weapon on to help destroy fleets anyway. So again, another area where these cheap, easy to produce bastions could help out, and it doesn't have to be the high mark that I've got it. The reason I've got mine high marked like this, and I have been farming some other high marked ones, is just so that if I am flying around in the sector, I get extra speed. That's the only reason that I'm going for that. And as you can see, so with that being only 2,369, that's the same weight as one of the other support ships that I've been using. A couple of hundred more, 400, 500 more weight, which shouldn't be an issue. So you should still be able to get 5 of these bad boys with the Orator. So yeah, the moral of the story to this video is just read the descriptions and spend some time, invest some time in exploring what your ships can and can't do. Look at your modifiers and pay a lot of attention to the modifiers. Some of them are quite simple, like the Vector exit its phase and it fires its little plasma bullet. It's pretty simple. You know it's going to go an extra 1,000 more range than your normal weapons. You know it's going to ricochet to others. It's going to do damage to health, and it stops sabotage. They're quite self-explanatory. But there are some that are a little sneaky and don't quite jump out as obvious perks to want to go for. And likewise, there are some that you don't want to go for at all. Well, in my opinion. So, for example, this one. When 16,000 shield damage is taken by the Ajax, it redirects power from its flight systems in order to fortify itself against massive amounts of incoming damage for 2 seconds. Now, what this does, it reduces the ship speed by 80%. So that's like being in the playground, and then the bully comes up to you, and he comes up and he's going to punch you. So he punches you once, and instead of thinking, he's too big for me, I'm going to run away, you just curl up in a ball and take the beating. You don't even fight back. You just stop. So when the ranger comes up, there's no fight or flight, there's just freeze. So that, to me, is absolutely useless. Yeah, it's great that the shield can recharge when it's depleted, and it's great that it's got a quick recharge. But coming up against these tier 8 elite ships that are whacking out between like 6,000-10,000 damage each almost sometimes, depending on what perk they've got. You're not going to have the time to recharge this because you've stood still and just taken an absolute beating until you've just absolutely disappeared. So for me, that ship there is just a waste of a slot. Hence why I built one and never marked any of them up. So yeah, just have a look through your perks and have a look at what you're going to get from your ship, because there is a lot of bonuses to each and every ship, and it does take some figuring out to understand exactly how the perks work and how the overdrives work. For example, I mentioned the other day with the Vengeance and the Hunt that they have phase hacking abilities. So phase hacking, 20%. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, if that was per ship, that would be 120% for the fleet. And then not only do you have that, but your drones end up, I think, is it your drones? There's another perk that ends up giving phase hacking as well. I think it's just the actual phase hacking charge. So there you go. So phase hacking is 5% there. Now again, if that was per ship, would that stack up to 30? I don't know. Lasts 5 seconds, so you could potentially be up to 150 there. I'm pretty sure there was something else that charge disruption for the phase. Again, so that's 50%. So you could be up to 180% phase disruption, phase charge disruption. If that's the case, then a fleet of these would be absolutely mega against any Pharmacon. Which leads me back to the main topic at hand with the conversation with my colleague. What formation are we going to see in these ships? Are we going to see a lot of Umbra and Altarian mix, excluding the Pharmacon? Because personally, I don't like seeing Pharmacon in with my other ships because they're harder to manage with the fact that they move too quick when they enter the phase. So your Altarians and your Umbra sort of move at a similar speed, as do your Pharmacon until they enter phase. When they enter phase, they start zooming off all over the place and they're harder to manage. I get that your Orion's going to do that, but again with the Orion, you can sort of leave him to his own devices. The only ship that I think I would mix in with the Altarian and the Umbra would possibly be this Operator, because the good thing about the Umbra and the Altarian Ranger, from what I'm finding so far, is you can just leave them to self-manage, and they do move quite well, which means that you can just focus on your little Operators or your Orions, and you can navigate them to get them in and out, and you can use them as your lead and let these guys just do the heavy work at the back. As far as Titans go, I've already discussed that one. This is the one I would be going for the tank. Probably going to be replaced by the Pharmacon Titan when it comes, due to the fact that I just think that these guys having drones and the new Pharmacon Titan having drones, that could be a lot of attention focused towards your enemy fleet all at one time. A lot of drones going around, just a lot more DPS going down, especially if the Pharmacon Titan drones have damage over time, which I imagine they probably will. So yeah, key points: figure out what your ships can do and how they work with each other. Read your modifiers, read your perks, and test them with each other. Because, as I pointed out to the guy in my clan, working these with the Ajax, it's just not going to work. These just aren't compatible. And likewise, sometimes you're not going to want to put certain ships with another variation anyway. I'm probably going to stick to Ranger and maybe close range. I don't think I'll utilise the Titans much at all, unless, as I've said, the Pharmacon Titan surprises me. If that's the case, then I'll be happy to stick that in there in the mix. But hopefully that won't be too massively affected by its phase, making its speed off and being uncontrollable. Whereas, like I mentioned previously, these two I just think would be too hard to control in amongst these. However, 4 of these and 2 of these, happy days. I think that would be a good build. Likewise with these guys, 2 of them to just take up all the punishment with their with the modifiers. They've got a decent amount of recharge, as I've said. Here you get quite a lot of ship speed, strafe. They've got good movement. They've got extra damage bonus, 50% damage bonus, 6% on top of the screen damage. And like I said, they've got plasma resist. So if you are coming up against Pharmacon that are dealing plasma, these 2 front runners would be perfect. Paired up with any of your rangers, obviously your Xeno, Altarians being the top kickers out of the 3, if that was the case. So yeah, guys, if you've got any anything you want to talk to me about, any suggestions, any conflicting views, drop us a message. If you think of something different, drop me a message. Let's have a chat. Because, like I said to you, I'm still learning. So if I've said something that's wrong, or you think something different to me, challenge me on it. Let's have a discussion. That's how we all learn, isn't it? And that's how we all make friends. So yeah, guys, enjoy. Keep the farming going. It's a good idea to make sure you've got an orator. I know a lot of people keep saying that they're a bit outdated, but these guys have been absolutely, well, they've been perfect. This fleet has been absolutely perfect for farming all of the Orion marks. It took a bit of damage because I got distracted by the girlfriend earlier whilst I was hitting one of the Mark 6 fleets. But other than that, it's been instant repair every hit due to the way that I've been flying it. If you want a video making on that, if I've not already made one, I can't remember, then drop us a message and I'll make you one. But it's pretty simple. Just throw the orator in there, keep it at the range and let it just do its thing slowly. But yeah, guys, that's it from me. Enjoy, stay safe, and like I say, get in touch if you want to have a chat. Take care out there, boys and girls. See you later.